What's good, everybody? Welcome to Fill the Gap, where we fill the gap between closure, between finding purpose and becoming. If you are stuck in a place where you don't know who you are or who you want to become, this is perfect for you. And I'm just, first and foremost, I want to thank God for this. You know, just going back months ago, having this idea, having this thought. Shout out to Chris, shout out to Mel for bringing this alive. You know what I mean? And us being here today for this. You know what I mean? This means the world to me, and I absolutely love this. And for the first 1v1 interview, we got somebody special to me, dear to heart. I mean, we go way back, you know, and the bond, the connection that I have with this man, like, it's just material things couldn't comprehend what he means to me. You know what I'm saying? A father, a husband, a man of God, a mentor, a head coach, you know, somebody who's always been there for me and who's there for a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? It might not show it, or he might not get enough recognition that he deserves, but I'm glad he's here today, and I'm blessed and honored. Coach Till.
Thank you. I mean, golly, that's incredible. That's tough to live up to right there. It's humbling. CJ, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, and if y'all don't know who Coach Till is, man, my favorite head coach that I've ever had, and I had a lot of head coaches, and he's by far my favorite, the most impactful one, who's really just put a lot in my life and made me who I am today, I believe. And today's about him, giving him the recognition, giving y'all what he's given me for the past, you know what I'm saying, 4 years of my high school career, like, and the stuff, the knowledge, the gems that he's going to give you, it's not something common. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that a lot of people look over because it's not there. You know what I mean? Like, and luckily that I had a dad in my life. You know what I mean? But he's a extended version of a dad. You know what I'm saying? To a lot of kids who didn't have that fatherly figure, he was the perfect guy that I get to see every day, fourth block, you know what I'm saying? Good or bad, rain or storm, like, it was there, and yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate, you know, just saying that, just seeing you talking about pride, like just seeing you stand up and do this and be a man now. You know, you started off with little chubby 8th grader coming up, you know, little chubby cheeks, and coming up just being a man doing this and seeing you have vision for your life and for what's going on. I mean, that's so rewarding for me. I can't even explain that to you in words myself. And you know, yourself and other guys who are doing this, man, that's what we live for when we coach. It is. So thank you for this opportunity, and man, just hope that we can give something today that helps somebody else. Yeah. You know, like you're saying, that's what it's all about, is giving to each other and making each other better.
Yeah. And as I talked about people being influential to people, tell me about your early days and who was the person who made you or kind of molded you to be who you are today.
Right. I mean, kind of probably for a lot of people, there's a lot of people in your life. My parents, obviously, you know, really influential with that. Mom and dad were always around education. Like, so mom was a teacher. She worked her way up, and watching them, like, they had me early, like, they got married and I was born in that first year, and so you know, I had to watch them kind of grow up. They were young, I had to watch them grow up as I was growing up. And mom started off as a teacher's assistant, and she became a teacher. She ended up becoming an assistant principal and principal, all at the same elementary school where I went to school. Like, I watched her do that and earn that. My dad, same thing. Like, he was going through school. He went through like School of Christian Ministries and stuff, but then he became an accountant, right? So I watched him give to our church, be on our school board. He was an associate pastor and a youth pastor at my church growing up. And so obviously my parents were big in that, but my dad also came from a line of preachers and pastors. So my great-grandfather started off and was a minister in the PH Church, Pentecostal Holiness Church, and then my grandfather was a school counselor, right? And a minister. And so the thing that's cool about that is, like, some of the things we talk about and where God leads us and what he has us do, like, I'll watch those guys do other jobs too. My dad being an accountant and my grandfather being a school counselor, but then also being pastors. Yeah. And just that being the thing, the way they walked out their faith every day, right? So I think that had a lot of bearing on me. I didn't realize that early. Right. I think that's one of the reasons, like the conversations we've had over the years and with other guys, like I think that's wise because I watched those guys do that and it became something that I thought everybody was just natural to do.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think those guys had a big bearing. Obviously, my coaches, you know, I was very close to my coaches in high school and watching those guys and seeing, you know, how they handled us, you know, the good things and the bad.
Yeah.
Like the stuff where we did some knuckleheaded stuff and watching them handle that and still keep us around and keep us going in the right direction. So I think all those things kind of sum together, you know, to probably to make me on the road, and God's still, like with all of us, God's still making us right every day. So I think, you know, that's probably why we ended up together is because of those things early putting me on the path to coach, you know. So I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and a question that I know a lot of people would question is the people like our parents and stuff like that, the people who's looking after us, the people. You had a lot of people just looking at you to be a certain type of way from how they grew up, you know what I'm saying? Right. How was that pressure of dealing with that? Because some people might like it and some people don't, you know what I'm saying? Right. And some people don't have a choice,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, so I honestly, I didn't like it at times.
Right.
I can tell you about conversations with my mom, like, you know, I'm an athlete, right? I mean, or was, you know, I still feel like I am, you know, 46, 47 years old. But like my mom made me take piano lessons, right? And that didn't last real long, but even while it was, like I remember her saying to me, like, I'm trying to do this, and I'm like, Mom, I can't get this. She's like, I said, you know, and I got into it, my feelings and all. I'm 7 or 8 years old. I'm young. And I'm not perfect. And Mom's like, no, you're not, and you're never gonna be. Yeah. Right. And so you had to be like, yeah, that's just the way it is. We're gonna work anyway. Yeah. You know. And so I think, you know, the pressure of that stuff was always there, but it was always still love around it. So like you know, it was you're gonna do right. You're gonna do, you know, we're gonna do things the right way. But they always still loved you through it. And so that's something, you know, I always hope that, man, I want to be hard on guys. Right? But I want them to always feel like that comes from a place of love. Right. And I always felt that. So I think that was a big deal, like to your point. Like, but, you know, there were times I hated it, right? Times you got into it with my parents, like everybody, you know. Time I got into it one time with one of my baseball coaches because I didn't like it, right? But they always ended up correcting me, but not throwing me away, if that makes sense. And that was big, so it always came from a place of love.
Right,
you know?
Yeah. And all that goes back to faith, you know what I'm saying? God, the way he orchestrates things, we don't understand it. We don't understand how he orchestrates it, but it always happens to be for our good.
That's right.
In every aspect of it.
That's right.
So, I was talking to you earlier, but tell us about those stories, like the story with Samson, the story with Gideon. Like, give us one of those stories.
So Gideon especially is very powerful for me individually. I actually had a pastor call me out, like, I was like 14, 15 years old. He's preaching, and he says, hey, looks at me, and he's telling a story. He starts telling the story of Gideon praying it over my life, right? Yeah. So that was always a very impactful story. So I studied it that much more and more and more because of that. So there's a couple things with Gideon. Like the first thing is, you know, I have a little different rendition. So when Gideon's down in the threshing floor, right, and he's down there and he's protecting the food for his family, you know, and the angel comes to him, and the angel of God calls and says to him, he says, hey, mighty warrior. It's interesting to me that Gideon doesn't deflect that like that's not me, like who are you talking to? Right? I think so many of us look at Gideon as, man, he was a coward, he was down there, and yeah, I mean, he was hiding. So I'm not gonna try and paint him as something he wasn't, but he was hiding. But why was he hiding? He was protecting food for his family, right? He was keeping things from, so he had good intentions. Right. So many times, like with what God has for us, we got good intentions, but we're not following God's plan. Right? So, you know, with him, the angel came and corrected him and said, hey, mighty warrior, what does Gideon do? He starts complaining a little bit, right? The first thing he starts doing, hey, well, why hadn't God done this? Why hadn't God done that? And this is what's great is the angel basically says, all right, well, you're going to lead your people, and we're going to make this happen. Right? And so Gideon knew who he was, and when the angel said mighty warrior, he didn't say, who are you talking to? He knew what God had birthed in him and who he was supposed to be, but he had to follow that call. He had to make a choice to follow that call in that time, right? And so when he does that, the entire nation of Israel benefits from it, right? The entire nation, because a man who was gifted, who was birthed with certain gifts, right, by God, chose to follow what he was gifted in, right? And what his call was. So that's the first thing. And then to your point, like when we try to go through this life, like we have to have people around us, right? God's got a plan, we have people around us. But you know, knowing who those people are and what they are. So one of the stories I would share with you guys on a regular basis was about how Gideon selects his army. And like God takes it from, I think it's 40 or 50,000, maybe 30, but it's 40 or 50,000 men, and he takes it all the way down to 300 guys. And the first thing he does is says, hey, anybody with fear, hey, you can go home. Right. It's okay, you can go home. So all these guys leave, right? You know, I think it's like, you know, I think at that point he gets him down to several thousand, and then he says, all right, take these guys on a march. They're all marching. There's no fear. They're marching straight ahead. Boom, 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 boom. And they get, they're going after the enemy. All these people, they know they're outnumbered. Well, what do? They come up, guys have got to drink out of the river. God says to them again, hey, watch these guys. The ones who kneel down, who got their head on a swivel, right? They're going to go down, they're going to bring that water up, bring it to their mouth, lap it like a dog. Those guys are warriors, right? They're the people you need to surround yourself with. Yeah. They're identifying characters of those people who need to be in our life. And God put those men with Gideon for that time, for such a time as that, to where he liberated the entire country from their enemies. Right? So those are the things from that story that stand out. Several things, I mean, you can go through a lot of things, but stand out to me that I love to just kind of tell and put into the spirit of young men that, look, you know, if God's calling you to something, like he's going to provide, but he's also going to surround you with the right people. Right. Pay attention to those guys. That was something that was so special about y'all's group, man, is our best players in that group were our hardest workers. Yeah. Right? Guys got in there and just got after it, right? Got after it. And kind of the same thing, you talk about that with Gideon, right? Like, same thing, he goes in there and he put those other dudes who are around him are ready. So when he says, hey, let's circle the enemy up at night, right? And we're going to do this. And you know what happens? Those guys are right there. There's not a lot of questions. They sneak into the camp, right? They sneak into the camp. And the enemy, it says they're like locusts. There's so many of them, right? They're like locusts. They're everywhere. But they are still fearful of him, of Gideon and his people. They're talking about it. The guy's having a dream about Gideon wrecking them, right? And that's because God is with them, but he's also surrounded Gideon with other men like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember being on the knees, sitting on the 45-pound plate and just listening. Like, and I was listening. But like at that time, like I wasn't in my word, but I was listening. You know what I'm saying? So I was thinking like, man, Coach Steele doesn't want us to bend over. Like we can't bend over. Like we gotta stand up. You know what I'm saying? We gotta be strong. Like, but like stuff like that. Like when I started reading that for myself, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I caught on immediately. Like I knew exactly what you was trying to get us, and I knew exactly what it was supposed to mean. Like, and it's just crazy how God works, because if I would read a book how many years ago, I would have forgot about that. You know what I'm saying? If it didn't mean anything. But like, that's how important that was. You know what I mean? Like, for me to hear that, for me to like, dang, and remember, like you said that to us and you was trying to put that into us, like, I wouldn't be able to get that 22 years ago, you know, that I am today. Right. You know? And it's just, you were trying to teach us discipline. You know what I'm saying? Things that a man should have. You were trying to teach us discipline. Right. You know what I'm saying? Stand up straight. Where we need to wear the weight room. You know what I'm saying? Be together. You know what I'm saying? Clean the rats off equally. You know what I'm saying? Like everything you was trying to teach us, I wasn't able to grasp on fully until I got to the age that I am now, and I can recognize those things you were trying to teach us, and I can hold on to those things, you know, because those things are desperate. Right. Desperate, and not many young men have that. Right. And to go back, not many young men had somebody to teach them that. Right. You know what I'm saying? So just to be able to say that you taught us that, and you continuously taught us that, like, it's a blessing. Well, I tell you what's a blessing to me though too, is to hear that you guys actually retain that stuff. Yeah. Because in the moment, you know, you don't know. Right. Right. You don't know, like, are they getting this or not? Right. But you got to, you know, to your point, like you got to say it. Right. You've got to do that, and it is such a blessing to hear that, you know, that's retained, that it means something to you, and you know, it's amazing how reciprocal those blessings can be to each other. That's incredible. And it's the way you go about it. You know what I'm saying? You're not going about it because you know you have to say it, but you're going about it to where you have to say it. Like you have to get across, not necessarily so they can hear it, but to put the seed out there. Right. And I've been. and I've been cultivating. I learned the word cultivate, and I've been using that for the longest that I can remember. But the seed, God gives us the seed, and our job is to cultivate it. And I told Chris the other day, like, it's not our job to grow the apples. It's our job just to cultivate the seed that He's given us.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's all it is. You was putting the seed out there. You was putting the seed out there for us to grab and cultivate around that.
That's right.
And like, it blows my mind how that is just a speckle of how God works. You know what I mean? Just a gristle. You know.
Well, His plan, and it's moments like this, like you're talking about, that honestly, that keep our faith built up and keep our faith strong, because we don't see it in the moment, right? And then we see how God had a plan, boom, 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 all the way down here when we get here, and you go back, and honestly, the blessing becomes more than it was when it was a seed, right? Because of you see God's explanation, you see how sovereign and how powerful He is. It's just incredible. Right. It is. I agree.
And while we're on this point, what would you say to somebody younger who wants to empower themselves, who wants to follow God, and like, what would you say to them to get them on the right path? You know what I mean? I
think the first thing is what you're talking about, like read the Word for yourself. Yeah. Like, you got to listen to other people. Like you have to, and you have to have teachers. You have to, but if you're just reading, somebody else's words on it, right, like, then it doesn't sink to you. So like you said, yeah, I said some things to you, and there was a seed. But when you read the Word of God, then it meant something. Then it something grows in you that God does that we can't do. Like we can't do that. God grows that. God is in charge of all this. Like, He puts us and gives us opportunities and chances to do it. But He can only grow that. The Holy Spirit is responsible for making that happen and making that grow. And so, don't force that, but just read the Word of God. Get yourself on a routine to do that daily. Everybody's gonna be imperfect. You're not gonna do it. Oh, I missed today. It's not that. There's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. That's what the Word says. But it is that, hey, I'm hungry for this. Then who are you hungry for? Then put His Word there, right? And then, like you said, the other thing I would say, it just get around other people who help build you up like that. Yeah. Those two things I think are huge, because there's no substitute for the Word of God. I mean, it's just not.
Right. And I'll share the turning point. The turning point for me was I was driving one night, and every day at 8:41 I have the Bible app on my phone, and the verse of the day pops up and stuff like that. So I click on it. I didn't mean to click on it, but I ended up, I'm on the Bible app now, and I see the little speaker sign. I'm like, oh, I didn't know the Bible had like this for it to speak to you.
Oh, yeah.
So before that, I had read, like, this was me trying to become more, do more. So I was reading books. So I was listening to audiobooks, and I had thought, I'm like, man, no way God would want me to listen to the audiobooks. And mindful, when I read the audiobook the first time, this was the first time I ever completed a book and actually knew what I read, you know, or knew what I heard, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm like, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, no way God wants me to listen to an audiobook, you know what I'm saying? He wants me to go read it and stuff like that. Like, but I promise you, I literally prayed. I was like, God, do you want me to read the audiobook? He just flat out, like, I just asked it. And he was like, I have people who are blind who need the audiobook for me to get my word. You know what I'm saying? And ever since I started listening, like, I've retained so much information after hours of me trying to read the Bible and not understanding it. Like, I'm talking about minutes, like,
bang.
You know what I'm saying? Then when I started reading the Bible, it's like, it's the same thing now. Like, it's just, like you said, I feel like the Holy Spirit really, you know, it moves in that way once you take a step towards Him. Like, that's right. And I feel like that's all God needs you to do is meet Him halfway. You know what I'm saying? Just take a step. Like,
Well, and that's what the Bible tells us too, is it says that, you know, draw near to Him and He'll draw near to you. Yeah. That's what it says. So you're exactly right. I mean, it's just awesome though when we feel that and we see that in our own lives.
Right. So tell me, how did you get into coaching? Or like, what was the coaching aspect, or what led you to want to be a football coach?
Man, that's kind of a journey. So I didn't take a direct path like a lot of guys do. You know, what I did was I went into athletic training initially. Right. Well, actually, I went to a school to take a baseball scholarship, small school called Emmanuel College, to take a baseball scholarship. I was going to study Christian ministries for a little bit. Then I decided God doesn't really want me to pastor, so I'm searching, right? And so I changed my major at that school 3 times. Like, I went into, my dad is an accountant, like I said, so I went into accounting, right? And then I went into kinesiology because I just love to study the human body. But then I transferred. So then I transferred to Georgia, and to University of Georgia, and I studied sports medicine there, worked with football and track teams. It was awesome. And it was loving that athletics and loving that college football scene and stuff. But it was one of those things that I didn't get fulfillment. I was just sitting back. Like, I loved the knowledge I was gaining, but I didn't get fulfillment. I was sitting back and watching, okay, our guys gonna get hurt. Can I go help them? Like,
yeah.
So it really, I had always loved coaching and I loved helping and teaching guys. And even that's how I studied in colleges, is I would find somebody I could teach the material and it would help me know that I knew it.
Yeah.
So, and my mom was a teacher. So
right,
I loved that. And I just kept searching for something other than that, but always back in my mind, like, I knew I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So when I was there at Georgia and I was doing sports medicine, I knew, I said, all right, I'm not gonna do athletic training the rest of my career. I love this, but I need to get where, I'm really involved there. So I went into school of education after I graduated, right? So that's what I did. Got into school of education, started working at Athens Academy as a strength conditioning coach. My background was in exercise sports science, so that was my natural place to get in with. And then, I had an opportunity with a guy from there to, I did an internship with the Falcons with strength conditioning, and then for just, a few months. And then I was able to make connections, coaching connections, guys who I was tight with. They moved into football. Well, man, I'd always loved football, right? I played and loved it, and that gave me an opportunity to get into coaching football, and that's just where everything's gone from there. Right. But just the initial thing with being in the weight room with guys and coaching and teaching, like that relationship piece was so good, and I just knew then, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like you felt that fulfillment in what God was having you do with those kids and with those guys. You saw the growth, and that's something special about the weight room. Like, you see it in football because it's a tough sport too, but you see it in the weight room, the growth you see out of kids, right? That lets you know that what you're doing matters, and you can see it kind of month to month or so. That helps you, do that.
Yeah, and I had came up across the Union Pines Facebook. It was when I think there was Matson or something like that, and it just to see like you're in tune with every single person. It's like you can literally see it through the video. Like you're giving them something. You know what I mean? And I know being through college, you know what I'm saying. So many coaches is like everybody doesn't have that. You know what I'm saying? Everybody doesn't have the ability to speak into somebody's life and literally give them an extra oomph. Like, you know what I'm saying? Give them an extra oomph, and you have that. Even with Union Pines, it was the same way at Richmond. Like, you can see it. Like, that's something that's in you. You know what I mean?
I'll be honest, I can't teach that. Like, there's people talk about the science of stuff and the art of stuff. Like, I think that's just the art of the weight room. Like, you just love it. And like you said, like, it's so funny you said, like, guys max, and you watch them, and like, you see them struggling, and just boom, all of a sudden something happens, man. That's so much fun. You can't explain why it happened or what's going on, but just to watch them do something that they were about to fail and then they don't, it's incredible.
Chris, did you have a question about like his balance between his coaching and stuff like that?
Yeah, I was like, how do you balance? Because I know football and being a head coach is such a dedication. Late nights, practices, games, planning for a team, watching film, and not to mention, I know you just had a daughter recently. You probably had a daughter around the same time.
That's right.
I remember last time we were talking, like, how do you balance being a dad, a husband? How do you balance all that stuff?
Well, I think the first thing is, your love for people and those things comes from the same place, comes from God. Like, you try and mirror, like one of, everybody knows the 23rd Psalm, right? So we're doing the first day of our leadership training here. We start breaking that down though. So this is the Lord is my shepherd, right? So many times we look at that as how the Lord provides for us. But what we did, and as an example of this is, if we're trying to be like God as Christians, right, then we should also look at the 23rd Psalm as how we're supposed to treat our families, how I'm supposed to treat the people who, I'm responsible for, right? To be a shepherd, right? To lead them beside still waters, So I think first off is, what is your heart for those people? How do you think about those things? How they come about it? But man, like I said to you before, I think I'm always trying to figure that out because the world and your life is still changing. Like, big reason I was able to, I took this job was my daughter was starting kindergarten this year. So I had to make, I felt like, and I mean, I know the had to is, but I felt in my spirit, like I got to make a change to be able to be there. She was asking me every night I take her to bed, Dad, you gonna be here in the morning? And I had to, for 2 years say, no, I'm not, right? Well, then she's gonna be going to school the next year in a different county. And so I thought, man, I've got an opportunity to be there. I got to make that important now. So I think, to your point, like when you realize those opportunities and those moments are there, you make a change or you do something in that moment. So now, every morning, I make her breakfast. I'll wake her up, right? She rides to school with me every morning, right? My kindergartner. Like you said, I have one that's almost 2 years old now. We kind of had, we're having about the same time, and a younger one, and she's learning to talk, and she's probably a lot like her daddy. Like she's headstrong. She's running into things, that kind of stuff. So I think that the big thing is trying to be present. And I'm being honest, I fail at this more than I get it right.
Same.
Right. But I think being present. So like when I go home today, after we're done with this, and I go home, like I need to be present there. Like when I'm there, it needs to matter that Dad's there. He doesn't need to be a shell of himself. Like sometimes you get in the car when you first get there, get home, like ramp that stuff up, man. Same thing as I do before 4 o'clock. Like ramp it. Okay, I got to be at my best right here.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't have the energy. Sometimes you are tired.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want to sit down and do nothing.
Right.
You have to. And when that little one comes to you and looks at you,
yeah,
it boosts you up automatically.
That's exactly right.
Let's go. Like
that's it. Like, and you know that.
What I do, I'm doing it.
That's right. That's game. That's a game time moment, right? It's the same thing we teach these guys. Like you got to be ready for the moment, right, and be there. The other thing is like my wife knows, and it's really helpful when we're on the same page. Right?
You have to have a good support.
Yeah, so the communication there, us being on the same page. So like you said, sometimes when I first get home, like there's a lot of nights she's got dinner ready and stuff like that, so that, okay, I can sit down for 10. Now we're sitting all together, right? Everybody's together, but I am sitting and gathering myself for 10 minutes to ramp up after that, right? So that helps me do that. It's a big help. The nights that we can work that out, and obviously she works too, and sometimes that doesn't happen. But so I think the big deal is, to your point, like how do you do it? Like you keep searching to do it right next day. The guys who talk about, and these Army guys here ain't gonna like this that I mention this because there's a lot of SF, Special Forces guys and guys around here. But I'm going to use a SEAL analogy as opposed to using the SF analogy. But those guys talk about the guys who make it through buds, right? Is because they do it. They don't say, "Oh, I'm gonna make it to the end." They just make it the next day. Right? I'm just gonna make it today, and the days just stack and add up. I think when it comes, I don't want it just to be a day. What I'm saying is, let's win this day, right? We make plans and we get them involved in things. We do things for them and we sacrifice, but let's just make today great. I think that's the big thing you got to work on is when you're there, it's got to be important that Dad's there, right? I hope. I'm still hoping, right?
That's good.
Nah, that's amazing, and man, I'm so geeked just hearing you and stuff like that because, I mean, he has a family of his own. He's gonna have a family. He's gonna get married coming up
Awesome.
and stuff like that. Like, and like I'm not.
May 8th, right around the corner.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And just to hear like the questions and stuff like that, like I want to be able to be the man to have a wife and the kids and to be right to the wife and the kids and you know what I'm saying, and give them what I want to give them. You know what I mean? So to hear you ask that question about that, like I know it's sincerity behind it and it's genuine, like you know what I'm saying? Because he has a kid to go home to. You know what I mean? And I know that changes the game. Like you're gonna have the wife to go home to. Like
So to your point, like you don't realize, and this is one of those things we're making this point, like until you have a kid, everybody tries to tell you what it's like, right? But that's just one of those things in life. You don't know till you know. So you do keep prepared and you do keep, but when it happens, like it's like something that you could have never dreamed happened, right? And the love you feel but then the responsibility and everything else. And so I think you have to try your best to prepare, but you also have to be real with yourself that, man, there's gonna be some things I'm not prepared for, like just not, and I've got to just be able to deal with those emotions too. And I think I just hope that people just keep themselves open. Nobody's going to be perfect at it, but just that, like you said, be excited about it. Let it be excited and just feel that responsibility and the weight of that. But want to carry it. Want to get under that squat bar.
Right.
I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. The shift gears a little bit, man. Just to go back. 2017, 2021, those Richmond glory days, like just tell me your thoughts on just that period of time. We had guys come in, got Caleb, UNC, Jacoby, NC State, Marshall now, Dalton, App State, Jaleel Davis, NC State, Ole Miss right now. Like, I mean, I don't think you could have pictured it for a head coach to have it that way. You know what I'm saying? Just in one class. Like,
well, especially not coming in, because I came in. You guys were all in 8th grade. Like I didn't know when I was interviewing. I didn't know that you guys were all going to be there. I mean, I tried to talk to some people, give me an idea, but for me, it was more about, and I haven't really shared this with a lot of people. Like people said, hey, like the Richmond job is a tough job, right? That's what everybody would tell you.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting at my mom and dad's table. I'm like I feel like I ought to apply for this, but everybody's saying, hey, are you sure you want to do that? And I said, I don't want to make a decision out of fear.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to say, hey, I'm not going to because I'm worried it's tough. Like I don't want to ever work that way. Yeah. So I feel like you guys were a huge blessing for following what God, and I have told people this, but I drove around Richmond County for a whole day. Right, and just prayed as I drove around the county so I could see the county, know the places around it before I ever even applied, right? So I feel like having you guys come in and us all being together was just a product of trying to be faithful to that calling, right? The good years and the things that we had there with you guys, I thought that was because of that. And no, I couldn't have, but I will tell you this, first time y'all came in 8th grade lifts and y'all were in there and we were going through things, and after that first week, Andre Jacobs, who's head coach of Middle Creek now, was still with us in the spring practice then. And I said to Coach Jacobs then, I said, hey, I want you to understand that they're going to have to rip a state championship out of our hands with these guys. Like, these guys are that good. I said, I had never had a group of freshmen and those kind of guys, this group together. I said, it's big. Yeah. If these cats will do what they're supposed to do, right, over the next several years, like, that opportunity is going to be there, right? And obviously it was, and COVID and all that kind of stuff, but you guys gave us a shot because of what y'all did for 4 years, right. And we're able. And I said this, earlier, like the best players worked the hardest, right? And there were other guys trying their best, but you guys being willing to do that, wanting that for yourselves, right? We were trying to impart things, but you guys had an innate energy and passion and fire of your own was huge. And I think that's what all coaches are looking for everywhere is, we love this and we want to do it, but we got a group of guys who love it like that too. Right. And that's a special place and a special thing to be a part of.
Right.
So what was your first remembrance of CJ? And from the first to the beginning to his last year at high school, how do you think first question is, what do you remember? And the second question is, where did you see growth?
Okay, so there's a lot of growth in this young man. But the first thing I remember is spring practice, him being out there and just watching linebacker drills. He's in 8th grade, he can't participate, but he's out there, man. He's dialed in, right? Just soaking in. I use CJ a lot talking to guys I've coached at linebacker, at Richmond. And even though I'm coaching offense over here, I talk to our linebackers about him and about guys, that things that he did and has done, and trying to watch tapes and, hey, look, I had a guy who he could do this when he saw this, right? And just trying to put those things in their mind. So the first thing was just, like I said, a little chubby cheek rascal, right? Just and it just over there, just so intent, even to be as young as he was, the intensity that you just saw in him wanting to be a linebacker and learn. Like how Coach Schuler has a saying where he say, linebackers, they ain't made, they're born, right? And you could tell CJ was born to be a linebacker, right? Okay, you can make them better, but there's only certain guys who they love that about the game, right? So that's kind of my first thing is that kid is a linebacker, right? Going into his freshman year, we run scout team and he's trying to kill, if he's running fullback or he's running scout team linebacker, he's trying to kill the seniors on the other side, right? And one of the reasons I knew this and I got to see this in practice was because of some of the growth. You talk about some of the growth, so these stories kind of go together. This guy gets thrown out of a game as a JV kid at Pinecrest, all right? And so, again, and he's heard me say this a bunch, but one of the things I tell guys all the time is your strengths are always your weaknesses. I talk about that passion. The passion went over the top and got him in trouble, right? So when you get kicked out of a game, you got to sit the next one too, right? So what we said is, hey, we're gonna make him come up and practice for varsity, right? The whole week he can't be down on those guys. He's good enough, skilled kid. He can do that, and he can protect himself. You couldn't do that with every kid. He was physically gifted enough to be able to do that, right? So we bring him up, and he's running a scout team. And instead of just going through and being a pity party, right? Coming down here, just trying, like I said, trying to cut guys in half, right? The whole day. And so at that point, he never went back down and played JV. right? We kept him up because it's like, this kid is like, he's gonna be special anyway, but now, right, he's gonna stay up with us, right? And so what I remember is that thing that was a negative, he turned it into a positive by just his energy and his passion, right, for the game of football and the physicality of it. So that was a huge growth moment for him that, again, nobody pushed him to grow that way. I mean, we told him we expect you to do the right. Like, we're bringing you up here, we still expect you to do the right. We had those conversations, but he took that opportunity. And then, you know, to watch him grow and, you know, change positions. So we moved him inside and out. Watch him be able to adapt over those 4 years, I think was huge, because a lot of guys get comfortable, and especially him. He was extremely successful at outside linebacker, right? And then, but we had to move him inside, and even had to do that kind of in the middle of a playoff flow, like, and he just adapted to it. So to watch that growth, and you know, the reads are a lot tougher inside. Right? Outside, you know, you're reading the tackle, you're reading one guy most of the time, and man, now you can trigger him to play fast, and to watch him grow and have to read guards and hadn't done it all year, and to pick that up in a matter of a couple of weeks and work on it and be able to his team to be better because of it, right? And watching, you know, the relationship between him and Gabe Altman, right, his senior year, and watching him bring Gabe along, and Gabe became a better player because he's playing beside CJ, you know, week in and week out. And to see that relationship, and, you know, the relationship at the car dealership and stuff now, you're talking about watching the growth that's there. And it being special that those relationships that were on the field also went outside of that and to be in real life. I think that was so good for me to see that. You know, he talked about Caleb and Jacoby. Well, Caleb and Jacoby graduated early, and so in that spring 21 season, they weren't there. And to watch him kind of pick up, and honestly, to this day, I still wish I had given him the ball more at running back against Cardinal Gibbons in the playoffs that year. He probably says that too, but I'm gonna say it before he says it, right? Because he wanted that. Like, that was the kind of guy he was. Like, look, fine, put it on my back, right? I'm just, let me be that for this football team. And it was really rewarding to see him continue to work and do that all those years, and to push himself in the weight room. Like I was telling the guys who were in here a second ago, like, he used to finish sets. Like, he wasn't the strongest on power clean or on squat. He was up there in the top 5 and everything, right? But like, when we got to push press, nobody in the entire room push press more than CJ. And I mean, that's how he delivered blows to destroy blocks too. Bam, he's locking 275 pounds out, you know, for reps. But it was also to watch that competitiveness. Like, he knew nobody else was gonna put that on the bar, right? And he was gonna do it just because nobody else could do it, right? So those are just things that just stand out to me when I think about him and who he is and the determination that's just been in his life. I love seeing his videos at Campbell and watching, you know, just the passion that he still had, even as he got older, right? So that he still played with that passion. I think about that, and that's big to me. Another thing, talking about him, I think about the conversations we had over the phone. A lot of this was, his recruiting was happening during COVID, right? And so we had to have a lot of conversations over the phone about what was right, what was the right place. You know, when we talked about the stuff that happened at Liberty and how the way they were acting about his senior year, and well, they wanted him to graduate early, and he didn't want to do that. And so he basically said, look, and I'm not going to, you know, that grown man decision as a high schooler, and I'm not going to school there. And look, it's a great school, right? And I'm not going to school there. And his career ended up at Campbell, and being able to make that decision on his own. And, you know, yeah, I was there, and I know his dad and his mom, and I know his family was there, but, you know, we had conversations even at the house on some of that stuff. I remember, you know, driving up, being at the house, talking to mom and dad a little bit about some of that stuff, and mom being like, look, I'm not, this really isn't mine. I just want him to be happy. I want him to have opportunities. And you know, his dad, Gary's a great guy, and just the love he has for CJ, but the tough love he always showed him. That whole process of watching him have to make tough decisions as a young man, right? And that growth and seeing that, and again, knowing back where that kid was, right? Who's standing on the sidelines, like that's huge to see that, and to see this now and what that God has placed in his heart, and the ability, the desire to walk it out, not just do it, but hey, let's walk, or just, okay, that sounds great. You know, a lot of people, this is an old quote when he talks about discipline, like discipline is where we follow through with what we said we were going to do long after the desire in which we said it has left us, right? And so to see him do that that's desire and that passion's there, but I'm gonna walk this out. I'm gonna do all the hard work. Y'all drove up here today, right? And I mean, that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of growth I could talk about probably for quite a while, right?
Yeah. What was funny is I went to the car dealership to go get an oil change,
right?
And I was like, and we were trying to figure out like with the interview. He's like, should I interview you? Like, we should do Till. I said, do it. I said, text him. He's like, should I text him? Text him. And he got so far out of my head. He's like, nah, yeah, I'm gonna text him. I'll text him. But he's like, what should I say? He wrote the message. I saw the message. He's like, he didn't see. He's like, what you think?
Yeah.
Like, text it. Yeah. And he responded real fast, but he was so excited, like.
But you even talk about though, how that works. Like I was sitting here on my planning period.
Yeah.
Right. So, because normally I can probably show you my phone right now. Like I go through hours being in here, and that's one of my things, like being present in the moment. Mm-hmm. So, like when I'm in here, like I try my best. Like around here, I have to pull my phone out every once in a while because that's how they call me if a kid's checking out or whatever. But I try not to look at my phone because I want to be in here with what they're doing, right? I want to be present in that moment. So it's just crazy that the time window hit. Where, okay, boom, they hit, and I could just respond, and we could get on this. So, I mean, again, God works even in little things like that, right? I mean, He just does.
Yeah, that was crazy. Me and Chris is out there for like 2 hours just talking about it, and like you said, it just happened. When God will allow something to happen and it's in line for Him, right. He will allow it to happen with no problems, no problems at all. Right. So, and I'm glad. And just think about it now with Chris. Like that was like a week. That was like a week or two. That was last week. That was last week, and this is the first pod, and this is the first time. Like, right. You know what I'm saying? And I love it. You know what I'm saying? I absolutely love it. And man, I just love all this, man. Like right. Months ago, like I told Chris this like months ago. Like I had this idea. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, this desire has been gone. You know what I'm saying? Right. Months ago, desire is gone. So it's just about how you're going to step to it. You know what I'm saying? Keep stepping to it every day. Like, no matter what problems come your way, let's step to it. You know what I'm saying? Like.
So CJ now is going through his injury, trying to get back. What words would you give to him right now?
So, right now, I would say continue. Like I watched the videos you guys did. Like he sent me those clips, man. That was fantastic. But I think, you hear that and you hear those words. You're speaking those words to yourself, and you know the truth. Yeah. Right. And you stay with that truth. Right. And you just hold on to that truth. And I think that's the big thing is, I had an ACL injury, but I wasn't a college football player, right? But so I walked that, and I know, like, it's painful. You said this, man. You run on that treadmill, like it's painful, yeah. Right? But I remember one time I got in the doggone car. As soon as I got in, it hit my knee, right? Just on the steering wheel. Yeah. Lights you up, right? Just lights you all the way up. But you know that, okay, on the other end of that is a whole different deal, right? And just stay with the truth that that's been here the whole time in your whole life, like. That has gotten you to where you are, right? It got you through all the other things. That fire that's there, reach back into that on a regular basis. Yeah. And like a better way of saying it, preach to yourself, right? You preach to yourself because that's the truth of the matter, right? What you said about dealing with pain and just going anyway and going, that's the truth of the matter, yeah. Right? And just remind yourself of that. That's another thing the Bible talks about. I was talking about in leadership, we were talking about with our guys in Joshua, but Joshua puts down, they crossed the Jordan, right? They crossed the Jordan and they put the ark out there and man, the water stop and they go across. But what does he do? He stops and makes the tribes all select a guy, 12 guys, go get a stone out of the middle of the Jordan, and they select a monument. And he doesn't just make a monument, but he tells them, tell your children and your children's children, when they ask about this, tell them what it is. I would say the same things we got to do to ourselves. We got to tell ourselves the things God's brought you through so far. Yeah. We tell ourselves the victories He's done, and we remind ourselves of who He has been because He is the same today and forever more. And so He will continue to be that in your life, right? So as you go through that, remind yourself of those truths. And I can keep going, but that's to me, that's what I think you have to do in that as you work, and because you know the truth. It'd be different if we were talking to an unbeliever, somebody who didn't know, right? But you know the truth that God's been in your life, and I would say just continue to remind yourself of that truth all the time.
Right. I appreciate that, man. And for everybody, and this is kind of my next segment, have a motivational segment, but that was enough motivation, and everybody can use that. Man, this journey isn't nothing without walls to go over. You know what I'm saying? And I told Chris this the other day, like, the problems you face in life are meant for you to stand on that and keep going, and those problems make you the new you are after that. You know what I mean? So any problems you have in life, anything that you think is impossible, it's not impossible. You know what I'm saying? The man above, he works in every which way for our good. You know what I'm saying? So we have to see it. It's not about our understanding, it's about his. You know what I'm saying? We're not always gonna understand it. You know, we might never not understand it, but it's not about that. We can get over it with him. You know what I mean? And with anything, draw near to him and he'll draw near to you. You know what I'm saying? And keep going at it day by day. You know what I'm saying? Stack days on top of days on top of days. You know what I mean? And just keep going through life with that. You know, Coach Till, I appreciate you. You don't know what this means to me. The feeling that I got from this, like this whole time, and I never got to say this. I never got to say this in high school, but I appreciated all those things that you said to me, that you showed me, and that you kept showing me. Even hard-headed CJ couldn't understand. You know what I mean? I really appreciate you. You know, I really appreciate God for putting you in my life, and you giving me those gems for me to grasp onto and hold on to dearly. You know what I'm saying? Even 22 years old, that I know I need desperately as a man going into this world. You know what I'm saying? I know I need desperately, so I really appreciate you, and I appreciate your time for this.
Man, I love you, buddy. Yeah. I love you. Proud of you.
Nah, but this will do it for the Fill the Gap for the 1v1. Y'all like, subscribe. I appreciate Chris and Mel for being here and Coach Till today, and we'll see you in the next one.
Golly.
No, I appreciate you, man.
Hey, you talk about that. I want to tell you this. One of the things we're talking about right now is winning, but how physiologically you stack wins, right? What happens is like there's a reason there are winners and there are losers, right? Your body responds physiologically to winning. Like you actually secrete more testosterone, right? As a male, like that's how your body physiologically responds to wins. Yeah. And then to losing, you secrete more cortisol. Like that's why guys continue to lose or they continue to win. Like they and when you stack those, you mentioned that stacking those days, it just triggered talking about this with guys. And the way it feels like we got to chase that with each other, right? We got to chase that in our lives and with people in our lives because, that helps us continue to win. Right. You know, so it's not an accident. Right. Right. Yeah. And that's just something I've been discovering, and we actually end in class as many days as we can with guys raise their hand and say, hey, I got to win. Yeah. Right. What's a win in my life? I'm sharing a win with you guys. Yeah. Right. And that's what we're trying to do, and I appreciate you sharing this with me more than I can say. Like I feel like a winner right now. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I appreciate you. And how about stacking the wins and stuff like that? Like even the small wins, like can go a long way. Like those 15 minutes you said with your daughter, like just imagine a year of those 15 days, 15 minutes that up, like.
And them 15 minutes, that's a win.
It's a win.
And it feels just like
it feels like a win. Yeah. That's exactly right. It does. It does.
Nah, but I appreciate you, man, so much, for real.
Well, y'all too, and thank y'all for this opportunity.
Yeah. And
I can't wait to see this grow.
Yeah. I can't wait to see it grow. And we'll definitely be back, you know what I'm saying, throughout the years or whatever, you know what I'm saying? We'll be there to catch up. I appreciate you.